Alright guys, welcome back. This is a bit of a different video. I want to show you some of the new config changes, and the easiest way to do that is just to record me looking at the file. Sorry in advance if this is kind of poor quality. I don't have a desktop capture software and I don't really want to worry about it, so I'm just using OBS and Fraps together to record it because I'm in Windows 10 and a lot of stuff doesn't really work. So we're just going to go with this. So if it's a little bad, I'll put a link to a pastebin of this file. You can look at it there in the description. So if you can't see it on the screen, sorry. Just listen to what I have to say about it and then go look at the pastebin. So what's changed is there's no longer an X and Y coefficient or offset or any of that. It's pretty simple. In fact, I think everything's right here. This guy down here has everything. There's the equation, which is the same. I'll pop over here. We have linear, constant, log, and parabolic. Those do exactly what you think they would do. Linear, as there's more blocks on the x-axis, which is our number of blocks. The y, which is the return, is going to increase. Constant means the line won't scale at all. It's just going to be a straight across if you visualized a graph, because this is essentially creating a function. Parabolic, it will start off on the x and y. The x, it'll give a small return on the y, but the more it progresses further through the x, the higher the return will be. So it'll make a bit of a curve, and then the log is just the opposite. It'll start at the top and then drop drastically after a point. So that's essentially where this comes from. Those equations still function very similarly, except now you have a constant value, a factor, ceiling, and floor. The ceiling and floor are obviously, you don't want it to go above this value or below this one. So we have the parabolic here. I don't want it to ever hit 0, so I just put 0.1, and it's going to eventually start skyrocketing towards positive infinity. So that's why we have a ceiling of 2. So no matter what, no matter how sharp this gets, even if the curve just barely comes up, once it hits 2, that's the maximum it's going to hit. The factor, that is used to scale out how sharp the curve is. So that will be multiplied by the function and 0.2 will extend it, because it's, if you just think of math, I'm sure most of you have taken an algebra course, even if you're really young. They teach that pretty young these days. Multiplying by a fraction will extend out the function to sort of level it in that sense. So I'll go ahead and show you the constant value is added to the function, and then those two values are multiplied by the factor. If anyone's interested, here's the code right here. The block count is scaled into the floor and ceiling because this is a final count. This function gets called after it's counted how many blocks there are, so we need to scale the floor and the ceiling up to the top of the block count. So then we come here and we do the calculation, and as an example, let's do a parabolic calculation. It takes the value and multiplies it by itself, so that's why it does that parabolic curve. And then it adds in the constant value. So think of this as like 2x plus constant. So if you put a factor of 2, it'd be 2 times whatever the function is, and the function plus your constant. So that gives you a little bit of flexibility in how you want it to act. And then here is just returning the value. You're getting checking to see if it's above the floor, then we're going to use it. If it's below the ceiling, we're going to use it. So that just does that sort of math there. So it's pretty simple. Constant here will just always return the constant value, otherwise the size doesn't matter at all. So this code is on my GitHub. If you really want to dig into it, know exactly what's going on, you can. You don't really need to. I've shown you what's important right here to those of you who actually care. Most of you watching this probably aren't interested in the code, but those of you who might be more interested in this, which is the config values, this is where I really wanted to show you. And then, of course, if you don't want to go through typing the elements, down here you can see we can set the value, and that is our constant value, I believe. I'll double check. I'm not sure what exactly I'm going to set value to. I might set it to factor so that you can scale it from that, but at the moment it's set to the constant value. Now the constant value is what you want to consider the block value to be at. So if you wanted something to return like 2%-ish, you would give it a constant value of 2. That's why quartz has 1. And so then you can take the factor and multiply it. So see here, the redstone block has a factor of 10. That's a very, very high factor. And it starts by returning very high and then rapidly drops. It's never going to go above 3, so a lot of the time it's going to max out above 3, and then it's going to sharply drop very, very quickly. Like it might only hit one value between 0 and 3. But there is no floor, so this will continue into the negative. So if you start adding a lot into the speed, it would at some point start being a detriment. And I haven't played around with that, so I'm not exactly sure exactly where that would be. I might have the floor. I set it to the negative infinity representation for double, I believe, which is like -1.5. Yeah, its bottom value is -1.5. So the speed wouldn't go down to negative infinity. It would just stop at -1.7, or it's some value right there. It's between 1 and 2 for the positive and negative max values of a double. But that's, again, getting very detailed in the code in computer science, and if you want to look into it, you can. I'm not going to sit here and drivel on about it. So see here, we have the parabolic, or the factor of -2. That means your efficiency is going to be scaled negatively, and it's a parabolic curve, so it's going to go out and then really sharply drop, and that's sort of, if you can see my mouse, that kind of a curve. And it has a bottom of -5 and a max of 0, so this will never help you for efficiency. But for speed, it will give you quite a bit of a jolt there. I'm probably going to add a floor. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and add that right now while I'm thinking about it, just of 0, and we'll worry about setting that off later. This isn't actually the key XML. This is the one that's in my config folder. I just got to remember to go back and get that. But that's how easy it is to add in a little value like that. So if you wanted to add in the floor value, there you go, it's done. And that's all there is. It's very simplified. You can still do the thing where you set the materials. That's fine. Uses the same functionality of the equation and factors and all that. But I just thought this would be a little bit easier than the system we had in place. And it gives you still a lot of power to influence how these blocks are being used. But it also, it's going to take away some, obviously. In fact, the X coefficient and offset I wasn't even using yet, so so that's a good thing that that's gone. And so this is kind of a change from there. I took some of the existing factors, like the Y coefficient, and just renamed them to make more sense. So a couple of these things haven't changed at all, but the names have, so that it's a little bit easier to understand from the user's point of view. They don't need this huge math background, a degree in computer science or mathematics to understand exactly what's going on here. You can have any old Joe just sit here and say, hey, I kind of understand that enough, and they can sit there and play with the values and understand what's going on. I might at one point create a little standalone program, or maybe even a web app, something like that, so you can enter in these values and get like a little visualization of the graph. That's if this mod becomes popular enough where I feel that's necessary. At the moment, I don't have the time to put that effort in, and I don't really feel it's needed for the amount of downloads I get. I mean, I get maybe 2,000 in a month, and that's not really worth going through and creating a web script to get these values. But, you know, if you guys want, spread the word, you know, get the mod out there. I have no problem with you helping me get the mod popular. So if you want to do that, by all means. And then that will become something I will have to work on, which I say have to. I wouldn't mind it at all. It's just I don't have the time to sit down and get into it unless it was something that was very important. Not that it is important, but you know, you get what I'm saying, and that's why I've also updated my Patreon information. So if you want to go there, give me some support. It'll help me rationalize spending more time modding as opposed to working and doing school, you know, so I can have a place to live. You know, that's something I'd like to be able to do. And modding is a hobby. I wish I could do it, but in the last 2 weeks I haven't had a moment to sit down, and so that's why these videos, I have a little bit of time to sort of explain what I've been working on over the past month, but I don't have time to sit down and code and do a lot of debugging and stuff like that. So these are very quick updates. I don't edit them, I just send them out. And if you want to see more, just subscribe, let me know what you want to see. Anything you want, I don't care. I want to make this channel a place where you can get information about what I'm working on. I want to be able to speak to you guys. I get a lot of times into a situation where I do really long blocks of text in the forum, and I feel that kind of off-puts some people. I don't want to be that guy who's making really, really long responses. So that's why I have a channel, and I can, ramble on as long as I want. So, you're going to have to sit here and deal with it. Anyway, that's all I wanted to show you guys for this video. If you have any questions, hit me up on the forums or the comments here. I'm really going to push this channel to become a little more active. So, for sure, subscribe, like it, do something to help the channel out, get it up and going. I don't want to sound like every other YouTuber. I'm not even a YouTuber. I'm just a guy making Minecraft mods. But it does help, every little bit helps out. And you showing, liking it and watching it, sharing it, doing that helps motivate me to do more. If I see that the stuff I'm doing is getting a positive response, I'm going to do more coding and I'm going to get more motivated. It's very hard to find motivation when you're putting out content and nobody cares. So in that way, these are sort of my way to get your feedback. I really want you to get involved with me. Tell me what you want to see. I don't care. You can spam the forums or whatever. You can get all your little friends to come in and talk. I don't really care. I want information on where you want the mod to go. And by doing that, it helps me out because it gets me motivated. I want to code a little bit more. All right, I'm going to stop rambling here. I'm just going to go ahead and end it off right there. Subscribe for more updates. Do all the things I just said. And I'll see you guys whenever I record something else. Don't really have a schedule, but whenever I create something, I'll record it and send it up. All right, see y'all next time.